Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga Show. We are tuning in tonight for some more Bundesliga match week 23 review. Joined tonight by Petre. Petre, good evening. How are you doing?
Doing quite well. Good evening to you as well. I hope you had a nice weekend, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you as always.
Absolutely. Big weekend of action, lots of talking points, lots for us to review and get stuck into. As you might have noticed, no Mark, sadly, this evening. He is otherwise engaged, but me and keen. So keen that phones are pinging off everywhere to get stuck into Bundesliga review. Sit back and enjoy along with us. If you could leave us a thumbs up on the show, always very much appreciated. I can already see a couple of people tuning in, so good evening to everyone that is watching with us. And of course, subscribe to the channel. And if you're tuning in via audio, audio format, or whatever that might be, Apple, Spotify, anything else, hope you enjoy the show as well and leave a rating for us. Let's get cracking, Petre, and let's get cracking with a bit of kiosk fun. So it's been a little while since we've done one of those, so I'll gladly hand over to you.
Absolutely. Well, I, of course, brought my newspapers with me here to Frankfurt, where I'm attending a piece of business. I'm always carrying my newspapers with me. I suppose we'll begin with the Thursday kicker, in which fairly big news breaking last week. You guys covered it on the Thursday show, of course. But could you envision a better picture here of Thomas Tuchel, where it says Das Ende? It is the end of his coaching regime. And we've seen a lot of nasty mugshots of Tuchel. He's also been hiding behind his ski mask quite a bit there on the sidelines. But I thought that this was an excellent picture of him. Of course, a lot of the Thursday kicker coverage was in memory of Andreas Bremer. The Kaiserslautern fans did a wonderful choreo for him as well. He was, after all, an FC Kaiserslautern professional, and I was pleased to see that in the stadium this weekend. So the Bild on Sonntag, our English viewers will be pleased to know, went with Kane or Bayern, Kane's noch. Bayern were able to snap that 3-game on the trot losing streak, thanks to a Harry Kane brace, who is once again on pace to break the Lewandowski record. He'll at least get that, even if he doesn't get a trophy this season. And probably the other main piece of news in the Bild, apart from the fact that, Max Kruse and Joachim Löw are having a little bit of a tiff, we can skip over that. Was it? Did I see this here? Oh, okay. Do let me know here. Well, there was oh yes, here it is. Will Xabi Alonso be going to Leverkusen, Liverpool, or Lederhose? And that, of course, is alluding to the fact that he has been linked with the FC Bayern München job. If you care to go back to the beginning of the season, the joke in all of the German footballing circles was that Xabi Alonso, being the tactical genius that he is, was either going to win the league with Bayern or with Leverkusen. Either way, he was going to win the league. It may surprise some Leverkusen fans to know that he's interested in going to Bayern. It certainly surprised me, but that may be the case. He is, after all, a former Bayern professional, and according to Sky, it is what he's doing. The big obituary for Bayern, Wer san mir, is here in the Monday kicker. There's quite a bit of talk about this. I think I effectively have called the title race dead for a few weeks now. The defeat against Bochum last weekend pretty much constituted the final nail in the coffin. Tuchel is now a lame duck coach. Leverkusen will have to work awfully hard to get to worm their way out of this one, or to legitimately lose the title, I should say. We'll see if that happens. It is possible arithmetically, of course, but I don't think that it's very, very likely. And of course, the big news today is that Max Ebel, as we had been expecting for many, many weeks, or as we had been expected since Leipzig decided to terminate him, will be the new board member for sport, taking over Hassan Salihamidzic's old position. So the rebuilding job will fall to him this summer, and everybody has their views on that. But in any event, that is our kiosk club for today. I don't have the Spiegel to show you, but there's very, very great interview in the Spiegel this week with Bundestrainer Julian Nagelsmann ahead of the Euros here. in which he discussed the return of Toni Kroos to the national team. Very, very big topic here in Germany. Mm-hmm. And also the fact that, he revealed some personal details about his life. We don't necessarily have to get into those that were quite shocking. I wanted to address, there were, of course, with the investor deal being called off, no more protests in the Bundesliga this weekend, with the exception of Frankfurt-Wolfsburg, which the Frankfurt Ultras did throw some tennis balls on the match and some flummies on the pitch and some flummies on the pitch as well to protest the fact that Wolfsburg are, after all, a non-50+1 investor club. By the way, the Wolfsburg Ultras also protested against the investor deal, as odd as that may sound. But it was a rather orderly protest. It was done in about 6-7 minutes. It only led to about 10 minutes of added time in the first of the Sunday kickoffs, the early kickoffs. But other than that, it was game, set, and match. German Ultras across the Bundesrepublik were declaring victory. And as Mark and I were showing you in one of our in-stadium pieces and vlogs, the protests had escalated to such a point that the fans could no longer be ignored. I do apologize yet again. That's all that I wanted to report on for the Kiosk Club. I'm pleased to turn it over to my colleague Rory now.
Delightful stuff. Thanks as ever, Peter. Maybe that's Mark trying to call us and say, "Oh, get me in, get me in." I think Balim said that in the comments as well. Mark can't. He'll be desperately watching, no doubt. Anyway, yes, we'll move on to the football from this weekend, and we'll cover our top 4 games and try and go into a little bit of detail of the others pending time. And so the fourth, the start of our run-in this evening is going to cover the 2-2 draw between Union Berlin and Heidenheim. Obviously, a game that was still particularly important for Union to try and push further away from relegation trouble. It was an interesting game, a bit kind of topsy-turvy in a sense, but a fairly even first half. What we were thinking we were going to see Heidenheim go into the break 1-0 up. They at the very worst were thinking, okay, well, if not 1-0, we'll go in at 1-1. But Union had other ideas and managed to complete a very, very sharp comeback to lead 2-1 at the break, thanks to goals from Goossens and Schaefer. I must admit, both goals from Union had a sense of luck generated towards them, particularly Schaefer's goal, which was deflected in. And then in the second half, Heidenheim showed their quality and were probably the better team. And obviously, Jan-Nicolas Bester was able to get yet another goal, impressively finishing and lobbing Renault in net from a Dinci, smash forward, basically, to make it 2-2. And that's the way it would stay, basically. But yeah, I mean, Union, Peter, they keep on grabbing these points and rising out of trouble slowly but surely. Firstly, Union's XG in this game was 0.66, just showing that they were able to take what few chances they had. They had a win probability in the 43rd minute of 14%. And then about 4 minutes later, their win probability was up to 71% based on obviously those 2 goals that we saw from Goossens, obviously getting a bit of a break, inside the box, and then Schaefer obviously via his deflected effort. So a bit of a wild game this in terms of there wasn't that often huge amounts of quality, I would say, but it's just exactly what Union are needing to do right now. We talked about this kind of going back to basics, and they were able to get another creditable point. What did you make from their performance?
The stars of the show were, of course, the Union Ultras, who were the most active in the protest scenes that we saw in the Bundesrepublik over the past few weeks. Many different ultra societies put up signs this weekend that said "Spiel, Satz, Sieg," which translates to game, set, match, a nice little tennis metaphor to, of course, declare victory. But Well, no, this was not a quality match from them, which was there were many tactical errors from, in my personal opinion, from Union trainer Nedad Bielka. He put Brendan Aronson, the Medford Messi, the American there, behind Benedikt Hollebach as sort of a short striker, a service striker. And I had hoped that was going to work out well. It didn't work out terribly well. Lucas Toussaint was very advanced in what amounted to a 3-3-2-2. And of course, the big mistake, and this was the reason that Heidenheim were able to score in the opening minute, was that Kevin Vogt was moved to the left side of defense. He wanted to give Robin Knoche a try there as the pivot runner there in that back three again. So this was, I think they were lucky to get the point here. I mean, Heidenheim continued to be a phenomenon, a force to be reckoned with. They are not in the relegation race at all. It is quite a shame that Mark isn't joining us this evening, as Nikola Dovdan, the former Nuremberg player, is one of his most hated players. So I would have loved to have given him some flack about that. Yeah, I mean, we had 4 goals in it, but it wasn't necessarily a feast for the eyes. I wouldn't say that this one was. We have some better matches to cover coming up for you. Both teams can probably consider themselves safely in a relegation race for the time being, of course. Union, we never really figured that they would factor into the relegation race after the disastrous Hinrunde. We thought that they would bounce back. Looks to be the case that they will. And Heidenheim, of course, are okay. No one is safe until we get 35 points, just as we were saying last season, towards the end of last season, and we can keep saying that again. Yes, indeed, there were some interesting talking points from this one, but the best action was in the stands. With that, I'll turn it over to you, I suppose, for our next match.
Yeah, well, yeah, just before we move on from that, I mean, obviously from Heidenheim's point of view, I think, like you say, they're not in a relegation race, but I do have my concerns if we take out a Bester via injury and maybe Dinchy as well. We've talked a lot about Kleindienst as well, and Peering here and there chipping in with goals, but Kleindienst's form of, he's not been playing badly necessarily, but he's not converting those chances as well as he was earlier on in the season. So I have my worries should that happen. Obviously, it hasn't happened, so happy days for Heidenheim, and that their phenom of the season goes on, and they'll continue to be a pest for anyone. But yeah, I just was thinking that whilst I was prepping for the show, Union, yeah, form wise for Union, they're doing really well now. They've only actually lost 3 games since the 25th of November. And now 4 unbeaten. So I know one of the questions that we had last week when we did the Q&A is, are Union back? And we were saying, we don't think they're back, but they're certainly a lot better. And they are pulling away from trouble, and we can talk about teams in trouble a little bit later on as well, perhaps. But yeah, an interesting game to get us kicked off. And so the third game of the weekend that we'll talk about was the TopSpiel from Saturday evening, as Bayern went into a huge game with RB Leipzig with so many kind of connotations and stories around this one. But in terms of the actual football that we saw, Peter, I think the first half was kind of a quiet-ish affair. We saw the one big chance for Harry Kane, a really excellent stop actually by Janis Blaswich in net, saving Kane's free header. And then into the second half, Leipzig came out pretty strong and were asking questions of Bayern, I think it's fair to say. But then a real piece of quality play from Bayern down the left-hand side, starting with Guerrero. And then, Musiala's part in this goal can't be understated, because of his turn in the midfield, his pace to get away from his man, strength to play off a pass to Kane, and then Kane's clinicality in that sense again was superb to give the hosts a 1-0 lead. This, however, didn't last for too long, as Leipzig still had chances. There was Neuer's palms were stung by, was it Haidara from distance? Although I think Neuer was making that slightly more camera friendly than it actually needed to be. And it was Simmer Korn had a really good chance, didn't he, from the resulting corner. I think from watching that a few more times, I think he should have done a lot better with that chance. But nevertheless, they kept on ploughing forward, RB, and got their equaliser. Šeško having, well, that was probably his third and his least opportune moment to score a goal, because he had got played through not too long before, and Neuer stood up really well to him, and Šeško didn't convert that on that chance. This time the equaliser comes via a deflection of Goretzka, and then it's 1-1. You're thinking this is going to be 4 games without a win here, and well, it's just, you know, putting further clarity on what the title, where the title is going to end up. Alas, certain Harry Kane did have other ideas and was, set up. Was he set up by Choupo-Moting on purpose? Regardless, Kane's half volley beat Blaswich in there in injury time to make it 2-1 and give Bayern life once more, Peter. So, what did you think of the game in general? And was it a case of Bayern papering over cracks?
They have many, many cracks to paper over at this point. The sticking plasters metaphor is going to apply to them through the end of the season. This, of course, was an excellent response from Kane. You didn't. The only thing that you didn't mention, and you did a great job of describing his full match, was the Fallrückzieher. There's your German vocabulary word of the week, the German word for a bicycle kick. That came early and really showed some great intent from him. Kane had come under a lot of criticism because it was thought there was some criticism in the German press that he should be taking more of a leadership role in the team, that the team sort of lacks backbone and structure and someone who can really lead them on the pitch. Something that Thomas Müller has been doing for years, but it looks like Radio Müller is running out of gas a little bit. Father Time is catching up with him, and he's running out of things to say. But it was this incredible performance by Kane, and also his fellow Englishman and former Tottenham colleague Eric Dyer. Gareth Southgate was in attendance at this match. He was... Julian Nagelsmann was not, but Gareth Southgate was. And both of them, the two Tottenham boys, the two Englishmen, did their national team trainer proud in this one. It's actually a shame, I think, that De Ligt is going to be suspended for Freiburg, because Dyer and De Ligt were, I think, I observed that the two of them are really organizing the players around them very, very well. Particularly when it comes to giving Guerrero freedom to go up the flanks as he did on that opening goal. That was very, very important. And from a German perspective, the talking point remains the fact that Joshua Kimmich has to play right back now for club and country, whether he likes it or not. Mm-hmm. There's going to be no more grousing. There's going to be no more complaining. There's going to be no more, but I'm a goal-scoring midfielder. Sorry. Nagelsmann said in that Spiegel interview that I referenced earlier that he must, and this is his actual quote, must subordinate himself for the good of the country and play right back if need be. And Thomas Tuchel seems to be of the same opinion. And I actually think he did a very good job. He is a natural right fullback. That is where he started his career. The only reason that he wanted to move into the midfield was because he didn't want to be compared to Philipp Lahm. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Joshua, but that's not a bad person to be compared to. You should be honored if you want to be compared to him. So this was, at long last, the statement victory that we were looking for from Bayern. In many different respects. The Šeško goal actually came off of a deflection, if memory serves correctly. So they were dominant over Leipzig, who are not a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. And for a youngster like Pavlovic to be able to compete with the likes of Szoboszlai and Haidara in midfield is no small feat. And let's not forget that Xavi Simons is somewhat flying under the radar for some league watchers, but I mean, he's one of the most exciting players in the Bundesliga at present. He was totally shut down, apart from, I think, some early activity within the opening 20 minutes. But a very, very important win for Bayern, a statement win for Bayern. Are they back in the title race? Absolutely not. They are the rebuilding project gets started this summer, and they're going to have to reckon with the fact that they're going without a trophy this year for the first time in 12 years, unless something miraculous happens in the Champions League. That's the case. I mean, are you of that opinion, Rory? I mean, what do you think?
It's going to take a lot for them to do anything in the Champions League. I regrettably say, because I love seeing the German teams progress and do really well. But yeah, do they even get past Lazio with a 1-goal deficit and playing at home? You'd imagine so. I'm interested to see your thoughts on this, Peter, because me and Runa actually talked about this a little bit on Friday morning about whether the Tuchel news does it release the pressure valve a little bit, because Tuchel was almost kind of inferring in a few interviews that he kind of can just say what he wants now in effect and play players where he wants as well. Like, have we not seen Kimmich right back because of him, like Tuchel being afraid of what might happen to his job? And now that that's been settled, will he just go completely overboard with all of his decisions now? He was very quick to say with an interview with Archie, who's obviously one of the post-match interviewers who does the rounds. And he was saying, he kind of corrected Archie by saying, we've only had a bad week, not a bad couple of weeks. So Tuchel is still very forthright in his opinions of what he's done at Bayern and what we'll continue to do. So what do you reckon, Peter? Are we going to see, Bayern players more relaxed? Certainly going to, by the looks of it, you're going to see Tuchel more relaxed.
Well, first and foremost, you never correct Archie Rentut, in my opinion. I don't think that that's acceptable. He is one of my personal journalistic heroes. Have you had him on the pod yet?
We've not had Archie on before, and I would absolutely love it if he came on. So we need to reach out and organise that.
He is just an excellent man. He lives in Köln there, speaks excellent German. Does a wonderful job reporting on the Bundesliga for ESPN, also on The Guardian and all of those things. And is just a top-notch person as well, just a top-notch person. Archie's simply doing his job. And, I don't think that the pressure valve gets released here necessarily. I think that the team, this was an excellent response, but you can still see that Tuchel's body language is not where it needs to be. As Manuel Neuer, and I appreciate you saying he flashed, he made that save a little bit nice for the camera. That's one of his specialties, Manuel Neuer says. Thank you for bringing that up. He said after the match that it reflects poorly on Bayern that they weren't able to make it under such a top coach. I think there's going to be a lot of collective shoulder slumping among the squad. I think whether or not where the squad can necessarily find the motivation from, because it's not only are they working under a lame duck coach, but they're not in the title race at this particular moment in time. The German national team players, I don't think that there's any danger of a player like Kimmich, Leroy Sané, or Jamal Musiala, for that matter, being left off of the German national team for this summer's Euros. Someone like Goretzka may think that he has something to prove, and perhaps Serge Gnabry, assuming that he can come back from injury on time. But I don't think that there's not even the motivation to get into the German national team from this Bayern crew, and it's. The whole organization has egg on their face now. I mean, for what they did, that's what the kicker is saying. And I was mentioning this in a column a couple of weeks ago too. This whole Mia San Mia spirit among the club is gone now. The club doesn't have an identity. They sacked a coach who was doing reasonably well last season. Then they sacked the two administrators who brought in said coach. Mm-hmm. Uli Hoeneß and Karl-Heinz Rummenigge went back into the front office to sort of save things with Tuchel. Then they bring in Stefan Freund, and now, of course, they bring in Max Ebel, who is, becoming more of a controversial figure in German football. I always defended him and his burnout case in Gladbach from the beginning. But so what does this club stand for? They don't seem to stand for anything. They panicked last season because they weren't going to win everything, and now they may win nothing.
Yeah.
And I think late last season we were seeing fans filing towards the exits early at the Allianz Arena, and generally I have not seen that sort of behavior at the Allianz in 7-8 years. I mean, certainly not since Ancelotti, I don't think. So I mean, the club's identity is in tatters. The fans, the ultras, aren't quite sure what this club stands for anymore. And there's, over the past 11 years of dominance, this club has also picked up a lot of what you might call fair weather fans, and that's whom this club seems to be serving. Not the people who show up every week, but the international audience who says Bayern has to win everything every year and has to be the absolute. That's not the real Stern des Südens, if you will. So they're in big trouble there. And what do I think of the Davies? Well, Davies is a player who, his career trajectory has been interesting because it was actually Niko Kovac who initially put him at left back. He was an attacking winger, the Canadian was, when he first joined Bayern. And in an interview over this summer, he said that he was dissatisfied with the left back role, that he wanted to be somebody who plays a little bit more forward and be more of a goal scoring threat. And then Tuchel sort of outed him for, this was a month or so ago, about Davies has been in poor form for some time. He caught some flack from his coach as well. To be fair, he did respond on a performance-based level. But that's another reason why Archie is absolutely correct, because they have had a bad few weeks. They have had Tuchel lambasting players in the press when he probably generally had no business doing so. And whether or not the relationship between Tuchel and the locker room can be repaired before the end of the season, it never felt right. When Thomas Tuchel said, "I fell in love with this team," who is he kidding? He never fell in love with this team. The team never fell in love with him.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about that decision, and could go down as one of the most awful appointments that Bayern have made in recent history, for sure. Just another comment on Archie saying he is a top-notch journalist with an awful sense of style. He always has some very fruity numbers on when he's doing the interviews, which is quite amusing as well. Often gets commented on.
Get him on the show. I don't know. Yeah, come on, Archie. Come on.
Yeah, great stuff. Before we move on, just very quickly on RB, Peter. I honestly don't know what to make of Leipzig. They've got so much. Well, you think that they have so much quality in that squad, and yet, well, if we jump forward to the end of the season, if they're not in the top four, do we presume that Marco Rose gets moved on?
The problem with Rosa is that he is a Leipzig native, and he is an R-based system graduate. And what he's doing week in, week out is he's playing the preferred Leipzig 4-2-2-2, the one that Rangnick perfected when he was there. So I think, there's a problem with this conversation that we don't really know. I mean, of course, what's going on with the Champions League now maybe means that Germany, with a coefficient, will not get that fifth Champions League place. That makes all the difference in the world. If we do, then I would assume that Leipzig gets it, and Rosa gets more time. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, can they find a better coach, really? I mean, can they find somebody who's more committed to the area, who's more, they have a coach, I think, who is probably a very, very good fit for them. And he plays a very, very good system. The players are not responding the way that we hope that they would. And a lot of it comes down to, I mean, of course, Openda is like, and we talk about this week in and week out. I mean, he's anonymous and then he's brilliant. You have Šeško, who is also, he is getting his tallies in there, and he's still a very young player. He needs some time to adjust. Xavi, if they could keep him, is one of the most amazing players in the Bundesliga. Dani Olmo hasn't really come back from injury the way that we've expected him to, but he's maybe perhaps needs a little bit more time. David Raum and Benny Henrichs. What is wrong with them? Don't they realize that they're playing for the German national team at this point? Don't they realize that if they want to punch their ticket to the Euros and come along with Nagelsmann, that they really have to respond? And Raum in particular is just, where is his motivation? I don't know. The only thing that, I mean, Rosa has been getting some flack recently for the way that he handled the Timo Werner situation, but I'm not sure if there was a better way to handle the Timo Werner situation. I mean, he's not, he was just simply not performing. Yeah. And that's, and he had to be benched and had to be loaned out. And Yusuf Poulsen, the club man, he was absolutely right to bring Poulsen in to give this squad a new spark and a new impetus. So I don't really see many criticisms of Rosa, other than the fact that he needs to light a fire under David Raum's posterior and say, look, you instead of getting more tattoos, you should be focusing on your game right now.
I think there's a lot of fires that need to be lit under a lot of buttons in that team. But anyway, we've covered that game in great detail on both sides. So we'll move on to our second game that we'll be covering. And the most goal-filled game from the weekend was Borussia Mönchengladbach 5, Bochum 2, in what was a much needed win for Gladbach, Peter, because obviously prior to this weekend they were just adjacent to the relegation playoff spot, and they would have been feeling rather uncomfortable about that, because again, this side Gladbach have a lot in their locker. When we see it, which is erratic and not on a consistent basis, but again, a squad that should not be in 15th place and should be pushing up towards the higher end of the table, in my opinion, anyway, and who have a good head coach in Gerardo Sioane, and I really want him to do well as well. But anyway, on this game, this was a hard one to kind of put into a few words because a lot happened. So technically speaking, there were 4 goals in the first half, 2 of which were disallowed. So we had a halftime score of 2-0 to Gladbach. So we had the own goal, which changed the Bundesliga, or the powers that be that give the goal scorer the credit, changed about 3 times during the actual match. I think they ended up on Ngumu having the goal, but I had no idea how they gave it to him because it's such a clear own goal.
Yes. I don't know either.
Yeah, that was really strange. So yeah, it's an own goal from a corner anyway, which Bochum would have been pleased with, and eventually it is. Yeah, I mean, it's smashed in by a Gladbach player, I forget anyway, just to make sure. But yeah, so 1-0 after a disallowed goal early on for Bochum, if I'm getting my ordering right. We then had the second goal, which obviously was a penalty, dispatched ably by Weigl. That was for a handball in the area. And then Florian Neuhaus also had a goal disallowed after a really nice goal, actually, interchanging between Jordan on the edge of the box, but due to a foul by Jordan in the build-up, that was also disallowed. It was Bernardo who had the effort ruled out for handball for Bochum. So Bochum could have taken a really early lead, and I think that would have been quite important as well, to be honest, but we'll get back to that. The second half, Peter. So Rocco Wright, substitute Rocco Wright, ends up making it 3-0 in quite comedic fashion, actually, after Ngumu just basically smashes it out his face, and all he can do is just kind of very cleverly redivert it into the net at breakneck speed. So he did well to still have his head connected to his body there. But yeah, that was a nice bit of play for 3-0, and you were thinking that was probably it. But then Gladbach's deficiencies in the back line helped us. Another substitute, Hoffmann, got on the end of a bit of scrappy play to make it 3-1. Then Jordan gets himself in a nice goal, diving down low, and being quite brave to make it 4-1. And Ryman kind of half saves it at first, and then he doesn't know where the ball is, and then he ends up just palming it into his own net, which technically speaking probably was an own goal. But anyway, that makes it 4-1. You're thinking, right, game over again. Then Kevin Schlotterbeck, both Schlotterbecks were able to score this weekend, gets in with a power header from a Barrero cut back. So you're thinking 4-2, surely not. Is there still time? But there was still time for a goal. There was a Gladbach one in the shape of Honorat, getting a bit of space in the box, wriggling free and smashing home for 5-2. So, yeah, out of breath just talking our way through briefly that. Peter, just overall, Gladbach really needed it, and they did get a performance.
You did a fantastic job describing that match, Rory. You did a much better job than I could have done doing so. I mean, that, as you so correctly pointed, I mean, this was a 7-goal fixture with 2 disallowed goals, including some questionable decisions on the score sheet. Personal confession, I thought that I was in for a little bit more of a relaxing time this weekend, reporting on the 15:30 kickoffs simultaneously, because I felt, well, the protest waves are over with and all of these matches are going to finish at the same time, so I could get my piece filed on time. Yeah. Well, thanks to this one and the Darmstadt Bremen one, in which Tim Skarka got wiped off the score sheet twice, that made getting the piece filed in a timely fashion difficult. Was done. I took the opportunity, and I'll get the column done early this week to have a look at Seoane's Gladbach tactics, actually over the last 4 weeks, because I find the case of Gladbach to be very, very interesting, obviously. As you pointed out, this was a very much needed win for them. They were sliding towards the relegation zone, where they could go down with their rivals, their arch rivals, Köln. And the question is now, what do we do with Seoane? Because at the beginning of the season, with this roster, you would have thought that this team would have been capable of, I should say, competing for Europe. Unfortunately, the Kvankara, all of the Kvankara injuries did not help matters. Obviously, I think that they bought. He was supposed to be their lead striker. He was supposed to be their Marcus Thuram replacement. But Gladbach underachieving, severe Gladbach underachieving. It begs a look at the tactics. And as I was reviewing Seoane's tactics over the last 4 match days, I was actually not impressed at all with the way that he's lining this team up. He's throwing some ideas there to see if they stick. He's trying all sorts of things. He's trying a 4-1-4-1. He's trying a 3-3-2-2. He's trying a 4-2-2. He's trying a 4-1-4-1 again, with different spatial assignments and things like this. And I'll go into depth a little bit more about that in my column. Suffice to say, I think he just wasn't getting them right at all. And in this match, I think that he did. I think that surprising though it was, the benching Rocco Wrights and putting Florian Neuhaus and Manu Kone together on sort of a wider third access, as buttressing strikers, letting Julian Weigl run his own solo axis. That was a very good idea. And switching Joe Scally over to the left and starting both Stefan Leiner and Scally, which is a good idea. Scally can play on either side, and Leiner is probably a better right back than Scally. That he's fit. So I think he got his tactics right here, and that was the reason that they were able to go up 2-0 Okay, yes, one goal was scored from the spot, and the other one, as you pointed out, was an obvious own goal. But they were quite convincing in that first half, and then the the manner in which the goals started raining down later on. Don't forget, Frank Honorat also didn't start in this one. He came off the bench to score. Ngumu took that. So I think he had a good feel for his personnel sections and or selections in this one. And he finally got his tactics right. Gladbach could build some momentum. Let's not forget they still are in the Pokal. One of the reasons that for their slumping form is that the match against Saarbrücken was postponed.
Yeah.
So they weren't able to get that momentum behind them. But they could still gain some momentum. I don't know, though. I mean, if this team doesn't compete for Europe, you have to question whether or not Seoane should stay on for another season. And it's getting to be a little bit ridiculous in Gladbach now. I mean, we've had, if they let Seoane go after one season, then they've let 3 consecutive head coaches go after 3 consecutive seasons of mid-table mediocrity. You've had Adi Hütte, you've had Daniel Fark, or Farke, if you want to be German about it. But now you're going to let Seoane go. I mean, that's... Yeah, because they should be competing for Europe. They shouldn't be this mid-table mediocrity with this side. I mean, you really feel for the fans and the supporters of these clubs. Great supporters, absolutely great supporters there in Gladbach, and they deserve better. And it's been a really rough few years for them, losing Max Ebel, who then goes to Leipzig after this burnout. And then Marco Rose leaving them to go to Dortmund. I mean, they've had plenty of Schadenfreude to celebrate over the past few years, so you shouldn't feel all that sorry for them. But, it's just the way that, I mean, you remember the way that they were rising under Rose during his first year. They were in the Champions League, for crying out loud.
And then, made it out of that group as well.
They did, So, I mean, it's just, oh, well. What's Oliver Neuville doing these days?
Very, very much improved Gladbach. Yeah, so scoring 5 goals. I think they'd only scored 2 goals in their last 5 before that. So yeah, timely that people were actually helping out, as you mentioned, because Duran Chura was signed as the big replacement, and he's not been really available as much, has he? For Bochum, just a bit of an off day, Peter. Like, obviously their away form is sketchy to say the least. 7 losses away from home, a couple of draws, but just the 1 away win. But they're so strong at home. Nothing really to worry about too much.
Well, I mean, we would like it if the relegation race would get a little bit more interesting. Right now, the pack's kind of separating a little bit. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is that Lech has done a really good job with his personnel selections. He has 3 strikers on that squad. He has Philipp Hoffmann, who scored his first goal of the season, his first goal in 10 months in this one off the bench. I mean, you would have thought that he was the one to lead the line, but or Goncalo Paciencia. But he's been going with the Brzezinski as of late, who has been doing actually a very good job.
Yeah.
Sturger is an amazing player. I think you guys talked about him on Friday, and I was all excited listening to you guys. Kevin Sturger, because I've always liked him. Masovic has moved into midfield and is doing very, very well at the moment. Kevin Schlotterbeck is playing better than his brother. We're going to get there. And I mean, he's done a very, very good job. So many different tactics from him, so many different personnel switches from him this season. I always am pleased to go into greater depth, in Bochum in the column. I know that nobody cares. I mean, when people see Bochum, Peter's going to talk about Bochum again, everybody's like, screw that, get to Dortmund and Bayern. But I'll always talk. I mean, I think that he's done a very, very good job this season. I think that they're probably, with maybe 2 more wins over the next month, they're out of the relegation race.
Yeah, completely agreed. Great stuff. So we'll come to our final game of our official countdown this evening, and that's going to be the Dortmund game as they went down 2-3. I don't usually say it like that. 3-2 to Hoffenheim, the away day specialists, or they haven't been away day specialists for a little while because their form has been terrible. And many bookmakers have had some fairly strong odds on this one, especially with Dortmund going out ahead. Coming back after obviously Elias Bebu had made the most of some rather sloppy defensive play between Emre Can or Emre Can't, passed the ball to his fellow centre-back pairing mate, Nico Schlotterbeck, who also didn't cover himself in glory in terms of receiving the ball. And so Bebu obviously makes the most of that to make it 1-0. But Dortmund did respond, Peter, and they responded pretty well. There had loads of chances even before making the equaliser. Donny Marlin had a really good chance. Sabitzer from that quite clever free short corner or low corner. Tested Baumann as well. So, the equaliser was coming. Donny Marlin gets on the end of a well-worked corner, which was flicked on by Royce at the near post for 1-1. Minutes later, really nice, quick, pacey free kick from Royce is powered in by Nico Schlotterbeck to make it 2-1. And then you're thinking, okay, well, Dortmund, with all the form and all the momentum, would go on to dominate the rest of this match and get another important win under their belts. But, Hoffenheim and particularly that man Bayer had other ideas in the second half as he would complete his brace. He did have other chances as well, based off some more sloppy play by Dortmund. I think this one was Julian Ryerson gifting him the ball in the second half and him having an effort, which he wasn't able to put on target. But thereafter, Bayer was able to net twice. The second, was it the second one where it was cut back to him by who was it? By Stack, was it? And the second goal was the one that was deflected off Schlotterbeck. Yeah. And then even after that, Peter, 3-2, Hoffenheim were holding on to a sense because great opportunities for Dortmund to equalise later on, particularly for Füllkrug and for Emre Can. The header right at the end where both players should have made the most of that. Although in between that as well, John Anthony Brooks had a header from a corner which also could have gone in. I had to mention that, of course, the big man. Another really entertaining game, end to end, great watch on a Sunday afternoon. Let's just dive into the match itself. What were your thoughts on it? Did you think that Dortmund effectively just blew it? That's basically what Terzic said in his post-match presser.
You have to. This was a very, very odd match, in that every last mistake that Dortmund made was punished. Horrible. Emre Can, who was given the captain's armband by Terzic at the beginning of the season. Now, granted, he was playing in central defense, which is not his best position. He had to fill in for Mats Hummels, who was having some gastrointestinal problems on short notice. But as you pointed out, that pass to Schlotterbeck out of the back that Bebu was able to pounce on in the second minute, and then he misses the header at the end, the best chance for Dortmund to equalize at the end. It's insane. You just think to yourself, what does Emre Can have to do to get this snake bite off of his neck? The poor guy is cursed. As I said, really, really, really strong response to going down early. Both of those goals came off set pieces. The second one was just an absolute Marco Royce specialty. The top spin that he had on that ball that he serviced up to Schlotterbeck was incredible. And, what happened in the second half? Well, Nico Schlotterbeck. There was a bad Füllkrug ball loss on that second goal.
Yeah, there was, yeah.
But also Nico Schlotterbeck went down and was trying to draw the foul and stopped playing. which I mean you cannot do. I mean, he was if you look at the lead up to that, I mean, he was trying to draw a foul and he needed to hustle back and help out his defensive colleagues. You can make the case that he wouldn't have been able to get back in time anyway. But I mean, yeah, and the one that deflected in off of him, even if that would have been ruled a handball had it not deflected into the back of the net. So I mean, it was just bad body positioning from him. You know, he knows he should know better. He knows that he can't do that. A really odd match from him too, because he did score that goal, of course, and put the biceps out, Patrick Schick style. But that goal was all Royce. So the Dortmund fans whistled and booed and all of this stuff afterwards. And, you know, as they sort of had a right to. Their captain had a nightmare of a match. But on the other hand, I mean, you know, in football, it's rare to see a match like this where every last mistake is punished, where every last misstep ends up coming back to bite you. Ordinarily, you can afford to make a few mistakes here and there. But yeah, I don't. I've been throwing things at my television set and going cross-eyed trying to figure out Pellegrino Materazzo's Hoffenheim tactics. I don't think that there was anything particularly good or special about them here either. You know, Bebu pounced on that ball. Bayer got helped by a deflection on his first goal.
Yeah,
and then got second one was a very nice finish, but. Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one to take for Dortmund supporters because they played really well, both in open play and on set pieces. I think that they really did. And, you know, with Brandt in midfield, I think he did well. I think that, Kahn is just, God, what can we do? What can we do? I don't know what to say. What can we do with our German, our former, you know, high caliber Liverpool German big international player? It's just, what's wrong with him? I don't know. Maybe he shouldn't have been given that captain's armband. Maybe Royce should have worn it. Maybe the additional pressure is getting to him. You have any thoughts on what the hell's wrong with Emre Can at the moment, Rory?
Not any more than what you've kind of inferred or suggested, to be honest, Peter. Yeah, it's just really strange. The match just couldn't have gone much worse for him. That header at the end, completely, you just back him to to put it away. But from the fact that Dortmund scored 2 goals and, you know, what they should have scored, you know, doesn't fall on his shoulders entirely. Of course not. Like, obviously, yeah, he has that chance, but you know, Dortmund had plenty of other chances. Like, why the hell does Füllkrug smash that ball as hard as he can into the atmosphere when he could have just put it into the back of the net or at least put it on target? Completely daft decision there, and yeah, obviously other chances as well ensuing. That just seems like there's a lot of disconnect in the Dortmund team. The defense, which we've already mentioned, Peter, just for those goals that between the centre halves and the 2 fullbacks, the gaps were extraordinarily big. I'm used to seeing that being a Man United fan these days, but it was comical really at times. Obviously, Maatsen probably had his worst game since joining the club. Ryerson had been quite strong since he's come back from injury, but he had a poor game. So the entire back four really didn't cover themselves in glory. And then when you don't have Gregor Kobel in net to, keep out those, those bigger chances, like nothing against Meyer in net, but he's not Gregor Kobel, could be the difference again. And yeah, from a Hoffenheim point of view, I can't piece together them, whether it was them being fantastic or, circumstantial. I think they played a pretty okay game, and certain individuals looked better than others. But still, like me and Mark were kind of talking about this over the weekend, the league seemingly now has kind of made its shape for the season. And it has been like this for a little while. You have the top 5 that are all playing, well, for titles or Champions League football, whatever it is. You then have this blanket that you can throw over everyone from Frankfurt down to whoever the hell's in 15th place now, it's even hard to keep it on top of. Bochum now. So if you exclude Frankfurt for a second, you've got Hoffenheim in 7th on 30 points, and then you've got Bochum in 15th on 25 points. That is really, really, so any one weekend you can be 15th, the next you can be 9th or 8th. It's been a really strange season by a lot of teams, to be frankly honest, from a performance point of view. And now we're seeing the bottom three are starting to get cut adrift a little bit, Peter. So, yeah, from Hoffenheim's point of view, they're better away from home.
Yeah.
But the form, you just didn't expect this coming at all.
I think, what you said is very, very important. And I think that's hopefully we get some more interesting surprises, because what's going on now with the top four is that Stuttgart and Bochum, they can afford to drop points because Leipzig can't really take advantage. Frankfurt are no threat for the top four. I don't even see how we get Europa League quality teams, in the top six there, as a matter of fact, or seven, if you want to throw in the Conference League there. I mean, when you look at Frankfurt, Hoffenheim, Bremen, Freiburg, Heidenheim's another discussion. These are not European level teams. Yeah, it's sort of separating, and that's unfortunate. We would like to see some more surprises there. Yep. I mean, if nothing else, the figuring out who gets the relegation playoff place will be interesting. But we'll be certainly hoping for some more surprises, because the way that the bottom three are being cut adrift, the way that the race for the top four is just sort of, it's, as you say, it's separating, and Stuttgart and Dortmund can drop all the points that they want. They'll still get there. Hopefully we have some more surprises in store. It's not the EFL Championship, but the Bundesliga often does surprise us. But yeah, I mean, not the same way as the Championship, because we have fewer fixtures. But
absolutely. So. Yeah, just for the best of the rest then. Obviously, there were, lots of other games that had talking points and entertaining moments. Obviously, Leverkusen got past Mainz, obviously on Friday night. Thanks to a bit of an odd bit of goalkeeping and some fruity celebrations by Granit Xhaka as well, giving everyone the frights of him potentially pulling his hamstring, but then just going on to celebrate. I think that was quite enjoyable. So they obviously got through that, and they stay super strong. 1-1 between Werder and Darmstadt, 1-1 between Stuttgart and a very stubborn Köln side, 2-2 between Frankfurt, draw specialists, and even more, and Wolfsburg, who are also draw specialists in a sense, Marmouche rescuing Frankfurt once more, and the comeback kings, FCA, Augsburg, getting past a very tired Freiburg side, thanks to a really good spell off the bench by Arne Engels. Just before we finish though, Peter, I want to get in the Darmstadt game and the end of it and those two disallowed goals. Obviously the first is an offside decision, and I forget the first. Was it Skarka twice?
It was Skarka twice.
Skarka twice. So yeah, Skarka's foot is offside. So yeah, okay, not a problem. Use the technology for that. The second goal. Where do we even start with that? That is a ridiculous decision. That has cost Darmstadt so much. In what we're talking about, if of course they have ambitions to stay in the Bundesliga still, and we have talked about this disconnect that is growing and growing, and whether they just want to get 16th and the fight for the playoff spot or whatever. That's huge. I mean, where's the logic in disallowing that goal?
According to the letter of the law, if the ball plays the hand, even if it's unintentional before a goal, the goal has to be chalked off. That's the way it is in the German rule book. Yeah. I don't know if it's the same in the English rule book or not, but
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. According to the letter of law, that's why it had to be disallowed. Oh, just massively disappointing. I don't think I've been more disappointed at a disallowed goal since that Nils Peterson one that we were talking about late last season. I mean, I was just I feel with Skarka because they absolutely deserve to win that match, and it would have made the relegation race. Imagine if it would have made it so very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the letter of the law, that no goal, even if it's an unintentional handball, can be counted. Maybe we can change that. I don't know.
Like you say, it was just disappointing overall. And a real shame. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there just for the sake of mentioning it, because Darmstadt, they played a really good game against an informed Werder team. So credit to them. Maybe next time for Darmstadt. And so that will very neatly bring us to a close this evening then. So thank you everyone for tuning in. As per usual, it's been a really good and enjoyable show. So just before we close up, if you can leave a thumbs up on the show, that'd be fantastic. Comment your thoughts if you've not watched us live. Always welcome thoughts on your team's performances, or even what me and Peter said this evening. And of course, we are also on audio platforms. So by all means, please do leave a rating and a review on podcasts as well. You know where to find us on X, @OverTheBarFB, and @OverTheBar Extra. Myself and Peter, of course, are on X as well if you want to follow us both. So thank you, everyone, as per usual. Thank you, Peter, and we'll catch you on Thursday evening. Cheers all.